Raven is our presenter today, so go ahead, Raven.
Okay. Sorry, y'all. I got a kind of bad cold on a work travel trip this week, so I wound up being remote here. Okay. Well, we'll start off here with a prayer. And this prayer's prayers for the natural order. It's from our prayer book for knowledge of God's creation. Almighty and everlasting God, you made the universe with all its marvelous order, its atoms, worlds, and galaxies, and the infinite complexity of living creatures. Grant that, as we probe the mysteries of your creation, we may come to know you more truly and more surely fulfill our role in your eternal purpose. In the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Okay, so we're talking today, as part of our pilgrimage series about today we're going to be talking about using the senses. So this is a um, big piece of this is a practice that I actually developed a long time ago, and it was the practice is in response to having done a lot of meditation and a lot of mindfulness practice. And so over the years that I was doing that, I sat Zen, I did lots of different types of meditation. And one of the things that I found to be true, and I'm sure many other people, as it turns out, also have a hard time with, is that just sitting still with one's eyes closed, trying to still the mind, quiet the mind, so that we can open more to a deeper experience of ourselves and God, um, is very difficult because we have brains that are continuously generating thoughts. And so those thoughts are, the idea that we would stop our thoughts is really turns out to be rather inaccurate. So we can't actually just stop our thought process. And so meditation, where we're going to have a still, empty mind, is um, in a lot of ways kind of a misinterpretation of Eastern thoughts. And so, anyway, over the course of exploring all of this for myself in my own practice, what I came across was many references to people engaging with the senses. So, engaging the senses to expand your perception, to expand your perceptual net as a part of your mindfulness, to give you a deeper experience of the world. And as you deepen your experience of the world, you become more in tune and more able to listen and experience the God that is in everything. Okay? And so I started experimenting with a lot of these sensory type practices, and over time developed what I call a sensory walk. So the fullest expression is to slowly open up all of the senses and then to journey through the world um, with those senses wide open as a way of listening more deeply to the world and experiencing reality and God at a much fuller and deeper level. You can see this. I picked that prayer. I couldn't find the exact one I was looking for that Felicia says a lot around travel. But you see this reflected in a number of prayers in our prayer books, with this idea of God's creation as being everything. So everything in the world is God, and the more deeply that we can experience that everythingness, the more in tune we are with God, and the more appreciation and gratitude we have for this unique experience that we're having as we move through this lifetime. And so, like I said, that prayer that we were looking at there is straight from our prayer book, and there's a lot of places where you see this reflected in the way that Jesus was trying to work with people in the world, and also the way that the early church recognized that really engaging with the world was a way to get to a deeper connection with God. Um, Amy, did you want to say some more about senses, sensory stuff in relationship to this?
Yeah, so let's say a minute about why we decided to pull this today into our series on pilgrimage. We think a lot. We are good thinkers, right? And that can really affect when we are on a pilgrimage. We are constantly judging it against what we thought it might be, or how are we going to frame it later. I listened to an NPR podcast one time on travel, and a bunch of studies put together on people's degree of happiness with their trips. And what this study showed was that when we go on a trip, and this, I think we can say this is true of our physical journeys or all of the other kind of metaphorical journeys we've been talking about, there are actually often 3 different trips. There's the planning and the thinking about the going, there's the being where we are, and there's the remembering after we come home. And each of those is important. The challenge is that we're often on the wrong one. Right? When we're at the trip, we're thinking back to what we had predetermined it would be. Right? So as long as we stay present, we're happier. That's what these studies show. Well, staying present is not easy for humans. Maybe you all have it down, and if so, let us know. It's really tricky. And so as Raven said, senses is one of the greatest ways we can come back to our body. Our minds don't experience things, our minds comment on things, and they comment all the time. But we experience things through our body. So coming back to our senses and our breath, those are the 2 most important ways to be present. When we go far away, like Raven was saying, and he's talking about Felicia, the prayer, she always says, when we have our special prayers for people, she has this beautiful thing about how we go and open our eyes to see Christ in all we need. If our minds are just busy, you can't see Christ. So senses are a really important way to come back. Some of the pilgrimages we have been talking about are ones where we don't want to be in our bodies, right? My mind physical journey with my health, sometimes I don't want to do that. I want to be out of there. I've used breath all the time to try to keep me in my body, not as a punishment. Sometimes I need to jump out of it, but as a way to be with my suffering, not to be my suffering. And I can use my senses too. So we're gonna play with all of that today. One more thing. Oh yeah. Mostly, many of us, when we're connecting with any of our senses, it's to think about, do I like that? Do I not like that? Oh, there's a smell I don't like, push it away. There's a taste I really like, let me have more. We're not present when we're doing either of those things, but that is a very human thing. Push away, pull back. So today we're just going to play with being with our senses. And this is called the sensory walk. Raven is a really a physical person. And so he developed this to be able to walk and do all of these things. And we hope you'll take this practice out today and walk sometime if you're able. But because Raven's sick, we're going to do sit. So is that fair to say, Raven, you developed this? Do you want to say a little bit about the walk part, just because we won't get to?
Yeah.
Why you did the walk? Why walking was important for you in this?
Okay. I think one of the reasons, so part of it stemmed from, personal preference. So I really like being outside. It's very hard for me to like be in a small confined space for too much time. And the other piece is also came from practicing Zen. So in Zen, a lot of times you do a mindfulness meditation where you are walking, you include movement in your experience of the world. And I think over time I realized this is really important piece about practice, about spiritual practice, is that it's very easy to sit alone, in a room and just try and keep your thoughts on something. It's a different thing altogether to take that out into the world, to be moving through the world in your day-to-day experience, and also be connecting with God and opening up to God's words and communications coming to us. Yes. And I think this is really key too when we start talking in this whole conversation we're having about pilgrimage, right? So pilgrimage, there's a big piece of pilgrimage that's about going to listen to what God is trying to communicate with us. And so that listening, I think we get caught up in that a lot of times when people talk about hearing the word of God or hearing the voice of God. Is God can communicate in a huge variety of ways. Every way that we can take in, you know, uh, our perception of the world is an avenue, is a channel through which God can be talking to us. Okay, through smells, through taste, through our experience of our body, through what's happening in the world around us. And if we can bring our senses, if we can engage with our senses to help us stay truly present with what's arising in the moment, then we're available. Okay. So when God is talking to us, which is all the time, but we make ourselves more available by being present. And so taking it out, not just practicing alone in the room where I'm praying, but also taking that out into the world to experience God as I'm moving through it became a kind of key thing for me. Um, and again, the thing about pilgrimage is you're walking without an expectation. This is really key too, is that the mind is full of expectations about how what's going to happen next, about what God might say to me, about what my experience might be, constantly thinking about those things. And so engaging with the senses really fully is also a way of quieting down that preconception so that you're actually available for what's arising in the moment instead of what you think should be arising in the moment. Okay. What I think my experience should be when I'm walking the Camino, what I think my experience should be when I'm taking communion. It's like we put a lot of thought forms into layered over the top of our experience instead of just having the experience. Okay. And what I'll put to you is that there's the opportunity for a deeper experience day to day as we move through the world of God if we can stay present in the ways that we're talking about here and not have a lot of preconceptions about when everything happened in relationship to in our in relationship to our relationship with God. Okay. Anything else, Amy, before we move on in?
Take a moment to see if anybody has thoughts or questions before we go into
Perfect. Okay, so we're just gonna slowly work our way in to the full practice, and we'll just kind of do it one step at a time here. And so the first thing I'd like you to do, if you're willing, is to close your eyes, or if you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes, then look down at the table in front of you and soften your gaze so that your eyes are just soft, okay, or they're closed. And then what I'd like you to do is take a nice, full, deep breath and exhale. One more full breath and exhale. One more time. Deep breath. Exhale. Very good. And then bringing your attention to your feet. Like you just feel your feet wherever they are against the floor or against the chair. Just see if you can find some sensation, any sensation in your feet. See if you can experience both of your feet at the same time. So just finding any sensation on both feet and just attending to it as we take a nice deep breath. Good, and we're going to start with just working with our skin. So just trying to feel our skin, and we're just going to go just a quick tour all the way up our bodies using our breath and our attention just to experience sensation. So taking a nice full breath as you feel your ankles. Can you feel either ankle? You can flex your feet. You don't have to sit totally still. You feel the skin on your ankles. You feel where your socks or your clothing is against your ankles. Taking that breath up into your calves. Can you feel your clothing on your calves, or can you feel air on your skin, the skin of your calves and your shins? Then your knees. Again, easy anchor is clothing or air if that part of your skin is uncovered. You feel your clothing against your knees or air on your skin. And your thighs, same thing. Take a deep breath. Just feeling the skin of your thighs, the fronts, the back, sides of it. Good. And then breathing up into your buttocks and your pelvis. You feel the weight of your buttocks against the seat. Just feel the skin against your clothing. And breathing up into your belly. Feeling any sensation on your skin. Your belly, your back, your low back. And up into your chest, your upper back, mid back. Any sensation, just breathe into it. Then your neck, shoulders, your neck, your throat. And taking a deep breath, feeling the skin of your face, your scalp, the weight of your hair. Good. And then without creating any stress inside yourself, take a deep breath and just see if you can include all those sensations you found around your skin. See if you can just include as many of them as you can in one breath. Just keeping your attention soft. Of course, the mind wants to jump from sensation to sensation. That is what it will do. But to the extent you're able, can you soften and use your breath to include more than one sensation? Fantastic. And now we're going to work a little bit with our vision, kind of one of our dominant senses. Excuse me. But we tend to only use a small part of it. So we mostly look ahead, straight ahead of us, and we see what's in this kind of 30-degree radius here that's right in front of us. Okay. And so we're going to work to expand our sight just a little bit to soften and include more of what's happening around us. Okay. So if you just find that soft gaze just somewhere out in front of you here, just down a little bit, probably on the table in most of your cases, or just kind of looking down at a 45-degree angle. And then just soften your eyes, okay? Instead of gazing really intensely at something, just soften, just soften. And then notice, let's just do it together. So you put your fingers up in front of you, right? So that you can see them on that 45-degree angle, 2 fingers. Okay? And then just very slowly take those fingers and just move them apart. Keep your gaze soft so you're not bouncing from finger to finger. You're gazing softly in front of you. And just slowly follow your fingers out. Right? Keep watching both of them until they kind of hit the edge of your peripheral vision, wherever that is. It's different for everybody. And then just kind of hold it right there so that you can see both of your fingers. Gaze is soft. Take a deep breath. And then while you're looking at both fingers, notice what you can see above your eyes and what you can see below your eyes. So splitting your attention this way as well, just trying to include your fingers and also everything you can see above you and below your eyes, where your eyes are. You might notice all kinds of things. I see like the rim of my glasses. Posters on the wall. Table beneath me. Just take a breath. Just holding, keeping the gaze really soft, because things don't have to be in focus. Very soft. Opening up the field of vision to see everything that you can see. And one more breath there. Very good. Then we're just going to keep kind of isolating these things one at a time. So I'd like you, again, to close your eyes or keep your gaze soft, whatever's most comfortable for you. And then start to listen. Use your sense of hearing. One of the things you're hearing is the sound of my voice. But what else can you hear in the room? Your own breath moving in and out. Maybe other people's breath. Little noises in the room as people move, as you move. You might hear some noises outside, or might hear the heating vent. Whatever you can hear. Just notice all the different sounds that are around you. Take a nice full breath. Listening to that and listening to everything that you can hear. And hearing is one of the ones that's can be a little bit complicated because the mind really wants to jump from sound to sound. So see if you can find the most constant sound in your environment. Might be your breath. And then listening to the most constant sound. And you just use your breath and softening your attention to hear other things while you hear your breath or this other sound in the room. Just working to include more things in your experience. Very good. And then maybe Amy has some things to pass around. In
What
terms
do we
of
do next time?
smell.
No, I'm gonna pass our essential oils. These are super potent. So just use a little dab. I like to put it on my wrist so I can smell it, but wherever you like. I'll just pass one this way, two this way, and we'll get around. So lemon is going this way, lavender and spearmint that way. Just take a little bit and put it somewhere. If you don't want it on your skin, there's some napkins you can maybe take and use.
This is a sense that we don't engage with very much. A lot of the time, usually we only really engage with our sense of smell if there's a really strong scent in the room. So it takes some practice, but it's one of the pieces that as we include more and more of our sensory input, this is one that can be really, really powerful to work with. And so there's the idea, you know, in this case, we're giving you a strong scent to smell, but even can you smell other things in addition to what that smell is, or can you smell different qualities in the scent?
Hang on just a sec, we're not quite around the room yet.
Just as you get to them. All right.
To get some if they wanted. And Charlotte and Carol, you have something you can smell?
Carol, Charlotte, do you have things you're smelling? All right.
I'm trying something.
Very good.
I'll give you a
Okay. So just wherever you have that smell on you, I'm using an orange. Okay, just taking a nice full breath through your nose. Then just with each breath, can you notice just a different quality of that smell? Can you notice, is it stronger on one side of your nose than the other? Can you listen to your tortoise going crazy across the room? Hang on one second.
Here's an oxymoron. She doesn't like to do that.
This is my work partner, Sophie.
He smells your orange.
Yes. So just breathing into that and noticing different qualities, and then seeing if you can move it away, a little bit away from your nose. And then now that your senses are opened up, is there anything else you can smell? Well, even the quality of the air, like the warmth or the coolness, other scents in the room. Just opening up this sense that we don't use a lot. For me, this has been, I didn't realize I could smell anything until I started engaging this sense walking out in the world, because as you walk, like there's a constant flow of air against your coming in, and the quality of that smell is changing all the time. And so it's a really good way to notice more about your world as you're moving through it. Okay, and then we'll move to taste. So if we have,
I'll send these around. We've got chocolate and we have little pieces of clementine. So I'll send two bowls each way. Take one of either. And then hold it, and maybe I'll talk us through the practice routines. Anybody have something? Carol and Charlotte, you've got anything?
Yes, thank you.
fantastic. Okay, so go ahead and take whatever you have and put it in your mouth. And just notice the taste. You know, roll it around through your mouth. Noticing how the taste changes, whether it's stronger in one part of your mouth or another. Just noticing the quality of this sense. Like, does it make you feel other things in your body? Does it activate anything? Take a breath. Take a nice full breath. See if you can just immerse yourself in this taste. Just using your breath for just for a moment to bring all of your attention to this one sensation, taste, one sense of taste. Excellent. So we're going to bring it all together for a short practice, and then we'll pause. So right here, just starting with the most recent one, this taste that is in your mouth. As you breathe into that taste, can you include what you're smelling? Anything you can smell as you taste. And again, of course, the mind is going to jump from one to the other, one to the other. That's okay. Just soften. Don't get caught up in the bounce. Just get caught up in the softness of the breath. And to the best that we can, including both what you can taste and everything you can smell. And taking a really full, deep breath. What can you hear in the room around you as you smell what you can smell? as you are tasting what's in your mouth. Listening to the sounds as you smell and as you taste. And softening that gaze, noticing what can you see side to side, top to bottom. Gaze is soft, not fixated on anything. Engaging your peripheral vision as you listen to the sounds around you. As you smell what's in the room. And as you taste what's in your mouth. Deep breath, soft focus, allowing things to be included in your perception. Feeling the skin on your face, your hair, your scalp. As you taste what's in your mouth. Feeling your feet. As you open your vision, your gaze softening into your peripheral vision. As you smell. Just taking a moment, using the breath to soften into all of these perceptions at once. Your skin, your smell, your taste, your vision, and your breath. Nice deep breath. And just rolling your shoulders, letting go of your vision, just looking around the room. Very good. All right, we're going to do a short partner share. So if you just want to, Amy can maybe help out in the room, just turn to the person next to you and just take a moment to share anything new or what struck you or anything about your experience. Okay, and we'll just take 2 or 3 minutes each. Okay.
So choose a partner. Does everyone have a partner?
Hey, Lori, can you mute the room for us? Hey, there we go. Okay. So Charlotte and Carol, what did you notice, or what was your experience?
It was a totally new experience for me, Raven, that I found helpful and challenging. Sitting and meditating always hasn't been something I can do. My mind just goes all over. This opens other senses and allows greater expansiveness and allows other perceptions to kind of go away when you're trying to focus on taste and smell. And hearing I have a trouble with because I live in the mountains. There's no sound up here right now. It's just, but I can hear the tinnitus in my ears.
Yeah.
So this was just it was an unusual experience and I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. Fantastic. Charlotte?
Yes, I haven't ever done anything quite like that before. But I agree with what Carol said, and it's something I'm gonna keep trying. I also, on the smell issue, my sense of smell is diminishing as my mother's did when she got old. So that one's, I'm wondering if, and that affects taste a little bit. I'm wondering if this practice might improve it somewhat.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It can, because the more you work with it, the more you start to feel, get to the subtleties.
yeah,
Really strong, like we were talking about, like, you can break a lemon in front of your nose and like that's a big smell. But the more you kind of practice with it, you can start to pick up the subtler, the more subtle things that are happening all the time,
Mm.
which I think probably be great as our sense of smell goes down.
yeah. That's gonna try it. Thank you.
Yeah.
One thing I'm noticing just now is that the mint essential oil that I used initially is becoming very overpowering. And I
Mhm.
have to focus on what is there besides that mint smell?
Oh,
What am I seeing? What am I feeling on my skin, rather than that intense smell? So I put the tissue on my desk and it's like, whoo,
Yeah, overwhelming.
yeah.
Which I think is a good, kind of example of how um, it one of our senses can be really overwhelming, right? And using the other ones to kind of open up actually gives us more, kind of flexibility and kind of opening in our lives. I've used this a lot, like if I'm in pain, if my body's experiencing a lot of pain, is not just to focus on that, but to see what else I can feel or smell or taste, because it kind of equals out the perceptual field, and gives us a little bit more space.
That's helpful.
yeah.
It seems to get me out of more of a head space and into more of a heart space.
Yeah,
Turns the
exactly.
turns the head off.
Yes. Yeah,
It does do that.
that's the thing, right? Because it's from that, whenever we let go of the mind and we come back into that. Let's see if we can get the room to hear this part too. Maybe. Lori and Amy are deep in a share here. But yeah, that's the piece while we're waiting for them. We get very stuck in the mind, and the mind is kind of a lot of times it's really collapsing and limiting our perception, of the world around us and of, God flowing through everything. And where you really feel that, like you're saying, is from the heart, Carol. It's like really, and so engaging the senses takes some of the fixation off of the mind, right? And it actually allows us to feel that kind of deeper connection to everything.
Part of that is that the whole practice, um, for me anyway, made me slow down, and it
Mhm.
requires a very definite sense of coming back to whatever your instruction was and slowing down to appreciate that. And I see why it's a meditative practice. Let's put it that way, and the kind of patience and centering that it does.
Hello, let us in.
They're engaged with each other.
Bye. Cool. Why don't you thank your partner for this time? Very good. Hey, okay, so let's just do a little bit of popcorn style group share, just one word or one sentence about what your experience was or what any insight or thoughts that you had about while we were doing the practice. So just throw them out there in the room, one word, one sentence.
Useful. You don't know. Out of body. Ditto. Out of, yeah, openness.
Yeah.
Awareness. I could feel the hairs on my cheeks.
That was weird. Hair on her cheeks.
Remember.
Yes. Spearmint reminded me, when I was growing up, we had planted a small spearmint and by the front door. And by the time I moved here to Colorado, this spearmint bush was probably 4 feet across and 3 or 4 feet tall.
Home. Home is my word.
It is more difficult when you have ADD, which I have.
Do you want to speak to that, Raymond?
Sure. I also have ADD.
I like ADD, by the way. I don't consider it a disorder.
I know we're gonna do Ray, but I believe that's why Raymond did this.
Yeah, so it's for me, it's kind of it was actually much more of a kind of game changer because the idea of engaging with the senses is, it's easier to include than it is to try and shut things down. So with my particular ADD, like trying to break, get rid of eliminate everything, forget it. Okay. But including everything opened up a whole bunch of different doors. Okay. And so can be different for different people. But for me, it's actually, in retrospect, it's probably why I was drawn to the Century Walk to begin with. Just because it's much easier for me to do including things than trying to remove them. And so, yeah. So I wanted to give Carol and Charlotte a chance to say.
I think someone said openness. That's what I felt, an openness to new perceptions.
That sounds like my house.
That's not the tortoise.
Go ahead, Charlotte.
Um, Obviously, a way to enrich the senses, and I can see why it's a very good meditative practice.
Something Carol brought up in our little share there was about the heart, you know, the feelings in the heart. And this is a really good, you know, I think that's a really good thing to kind of tie it all together, is that by opening up the senses this way, it's like it's a way of dropping deeper into your full experience of the world, like through the heart, through the connection that we have through everything. You know, one of the things that speaks to me the most about communion is the one bread, right, that we all partake of and we become the one body. And so doing this kind of a practice is a way of trying to practice that, the embodying of everything, right? The embodying Christ's body is everything. Okay. We are all connected because of the one bread, because it's all connected, is what I believe he was really presenting to us. And it's through this kind of practice can be a gateway into that sense of truly feeling connected with God in all things and all places. So I just invite you to experiment with it, play with it, and see as we do our pilgrimages and our journeys and all the things that we do as we move through the world, to give us a little bit more depth in our experience of that and our experience of God flowing through it. So thank you all.
Oh, Elaine has a question.
I was just wondering, Raven, about the walking part of it.
Yes.
How
Sure.
does that shift it for you, or what would you suggest for us when we try it at home?
Yeah, so the walking part that I would have added in if we could do it is the way you start, Elaine, is really just feeling your heel of your foot against the ground and just slowly moving it forward, right? So starting out with just like a few very slow paces where you really feel the feet as they move across the earth. What does that feel like? Okay, each step. Okay. And then trying to keep an awareness on that, breathing into that feeling as your feet are moving. Then you start with the other pieces. So I always start with the breath and the other sensations on the skin, you know, and then what can I hear? I usually take the vision in kind of the last little bit because it can be a little bit, it's something you have to practice a little bit, walking with your peripheral vision open. Because usually we're fixated right on the ground in front of us because we got to be sure, you know, we got to be sure we don't trip over something, but the peripheral vision opened up, you see all that stuff without having to look for it, right? But that's the one that probably takes the most, little bit of practice to get into, you know. I think most runners that I've witnessed probably get this down really quick because they're used to, you know, just running and just letting the body do its thing. Okay. And so it's just bringing attention to how does it feel as that's happening, and then opening up the gaze as you go. It's so intriguing when you're outside because there's a lot more things in our perceptual field, right? So it's actually easier because there's more stuff out there. There's more stimulus, okay, as you're moving around. So it's actually much easier than being inside because your body's already engaged. You can feel parts of your body moving. Those are really good anchors to just like expand outward from there. You know. And the other thing I'll say is I said it many times in the course of this because it's so important, right? The mind is going to bounce from thing to thing, right? That's its job. Its job is to try and make order or sense of the world. And so it's going to want to do that. And it's okay. The thing is just to keep coming back every time the mind spins off hooked onto something, and now it's going to think about, wow, that's really interesting the way that my feet are moving across the earth, and wow, that was a rock I just felt, and I wonder how many rocks are out here. I wonder if they paved this street very recently. So it's going to do that, right? And so the thing is that as soon as you notice it doing that, then you come back, take a breath, and you just start over. So whatever cadence you put yourself in, if it's your feet, and then your breath, and then the rest of your skin, and then the smell and the taste and the vision, whatever cadence you've created for yourself, you just start again, right? Just take another breath, go back to the first thing, work to include, and then the mind will run off. All good. Go back to the first thing, include.
Raven, as you were talking, I started thinking about my childhood, where my brothers and I were kind of barefoot people, walking on the grass, taking in the smell of the grass or the sand at the beach. That to me would be the way to start walking. And the other thing I have in common with at least one of my brothers is movement is, my sister-in-law would call it pacing, but movement is part of our problem-solving skill. I don't know if anyone else shares that.
Oh, yeah. Amy can tell you stories about every time I'm trying to process any emotion. I'm up walking around.
Can I tell, I'm telling. We were at a play recently and there was a really intense emotional part. And I noticed Raven getting really antsy and I said, do you need to pace? I think that's true of so many of us. And then we're told from when we're little, sit, stay still. And it's so challenging. Yeah.
Great. And you want a great teacher.
Raven, may
Yeah.
I say something?
Yeah.
For some of you who are not used to these kind of practices, at first it can be really challenging. You might be super active and it might even have stuff to say about it. Why are we doing this? This is stupid, this is boring. That means it's working, right? Our minds do not like to not be in the driver's seat. So as soon as we put them in the back seat, they get a little antsy. So if you can do what Raven said, is just come back. Father Thomas Keating talks about a similar thing in Center in Prayer. It's a chance to come back to God. And if your mind does that for 10 minutes, that's 10 minutes of times to come back to God. So if you're like me in the beginning, when I first started learning body-based practices, my mind had lots to say about them. Just know you're not doing it wrong at all. You're probably doing it right.
Very good. Yeah, I was just going to throw out, if you want to see a really good teacher, watch a child outside, as like, even like falling down, tripping over, falling down, like they move to, ooh, this is interesting. Like, what is this feeling of this dirt? It's like, and so it's they're constantly coming back to their overall experience of the world as they move through it. So great teachers. Great, thank you.